Muhammad wa ala Muhammad Salawat. Brothers and sisters, would like to start the program with the recitation of the Holy Qur'an by Ahmed Musawi. Please can we welcome him with a loud salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وإن تبدوا ما في أنفسكم أو تخفوه يحاسبكم به الله فيغفر لمن يشاء ويعذب من يشاء والله على كل شيء قدير. لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وإن تبدوا ما في أنفسكم أو تخفوه يحاسبكم به الله فيغفر لمن يشاء ويعذب من يشاء والله على كل شيء قدير. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Thank you very much, Ahmed, for that absolutely beautiful recitation. We'll now move on to the next part of the program, which will be the main talk by Shaykh Ali Reza Khaki, continuing his series entitled Growing Through Muharram. Shaykh Ali Reza is the lecturer in Islamic history and also teaches courses on legal theory and legal maxims at Al-Mahdi Institute. In addition to his teaching, he is also heavily involved in the running of the Center for Intra-Muslim Studies and lectures to Muslim communities around the world. His current research interests include legal theory and Islamic history. And just a quick reminder, we will also be having a Q&A session with Shaykh Ali Reza after Salat today. Please welcome him with a loud salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين وهو خير ناصر ومعين ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي صلوات. We saw the past few nights that how our understanding and our viewpoints reflect on how we see Islam, how we see Shia Islam in this particular context. And we also saw the development of Shia Islam. Now, I must point out that in the first talk I mentioned that it was Abu Hanifa who underwent the Inquisition, but it was a mistake. It was Ahmad bin Hanbal who actually went through it. And indeed, these divisions that happened within Shia Islam, as we saw yesterday, things are also happening within the wider Muslim community, within Sunni Islam also. We find much more a division within Sunni Islam because of the larger number of followers, amongst other issues. So this isn't a uniquely Shia phenomenon, and neither is it a uniquely Muslim phenomenon. We find this in other religions too. There's divisions, subdivisions. It's a natural outcome. I mean, even over here in Mehfil, there would be people who are similar in certain things, and we have different views in other things. It's a natural phenomenon. So it's something for us to think about, something for us to reflect on. And we need to be humble. We can learn from everyone. I mean, Even the Qur'an talks about the story of Khidr and Musa, and how how Musa, Kalimullah, the one who speaks to Allah, is told to go and learn from this person. There are different perspectives that we need to gain perspective from, learn from. With that, from this night on, we'll take a different spin on it, and we won't be looking at the historical development of Shiism. We'll look at the more spiritual aspect. And sometimes what happens is, when we look at these different sects and we look at these different religions and our affiliations to them, the problem comes about when we identify with that, and that obscures our view of everything else. When we become proud, or when we become egoistic, and when we don't want to learn from someone else, we need to be humble. We look at the life of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt, how they were humble. The Prophet would sit amongst people and nobody would know which one is the Prophet. They would go and serve people. So this humility must be there within us, that we must have that openness. We must learn from all, be it from an old person, be it from a young person. You have something, you have experience, you have knowledge in things that I don't have. And I have experiences and knowledge in things that you may not have. And it's only by me being humble and me being open that I can open up my perspective. But who am I? And I ask this question when I identify with something, when I think that I am such and such, that I have such and such status, and I am of such and such family, who am I? And it poses the question, the philosophical question that's been asked. If you take a ship, it's made of wood, and if you are to replace each plank one by one, you're going to put all the planks on one side. And each plank you replace, you put a new plank. Is that ship the original ship? Or if I take all these planks that I've put on the side and I make a new ship, is that the new ship? This is a philosophical question that's asked. The reason why I raise this is I come to myself. Suppose I was to replace each and every limb and organ of my body. Suppose we're in a state where we're very advanced, we're able to do that. Replace every part of the body, the heart, the brain. Am I still that person? Or am I someone else? And indeed, scientists mention that over a number of years, each and every single part of your body, each and every single cell, there's a renewal. There's death and renewal. So this skin that I had a few years ago is not the skin that was that is there now. The heart, the neurons, all these different cells, blood cells, everything, muscle, bones over many years. So in, for example, 10 years, the body that I have today was not the body I had yesterday. So is that not me, or is this not me? These are questions that I ask myself. And these are things that I ask and I reflect on. So who am I? What am I? If I'm not this body, because clearly my body is not what it was 10 years ago, and neither is it going to be the body 10 years down the line. And we can see this as we age, we realize that we are not that body. But yet, if I was to ask you, take yourself back. Take yourself back to when you are a child, and try and remember something during your childhood. Anything. And you will come back and say, that was me. I was remembering that. I was experiencing that. It is me. But I'm not my body. So I'm something else. I'm something beyond this body. And we ask this question, it's something for us to reflect upon, that we are beyond this body. As the mystic says, that you are not a drop of the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. And as the hadith alludes to this, Imam Ali's hadith, alayhi salam, you think you're a small entity, whereas within you is an entire universe. We aren't this body. This body is a tool for us. We are beyond this body. And there is something much more. As soon as I identify with this body, as soon as I identify with this status, what I have, what I'm for, I'm obscuring what I really am. And this is where the ego subtly comes into it. Somebody tells me something, or if I experience something, I identify that as me. But that is not me. You are beyond that. If I feel something, or I'm undergoing a certain tribulation, as soon as I start blaming and thinking that I am affected, how dare that person speak to me like that? But then, who am I? Am I this body? Am I this soul? Am I something? Because we know this body, as soon the fact that you can identify or be observant of this body, the fact that you can be aware of you doing certain things shows that there is something else, and then there is this body. This is something really interesting to think about. And as we ponder upon it, as we look within ourselves, as we realize, then all these identity markers that we have around us, we realize that it's all temporal. And if you think about it, when you go to sleep and when you have a dream that is maybe scary, or you feel that you're about to fall, and then you wake up and you realize, oh, Alhamdulillah, I'm not in that thing's not going to happen to me. Or if you have these virtual reality headsets that you play, or you're in that game, or you're on a roller coaster, and you feel like your heart is pumping, and then when you remove it, you realize, oh, I'm actually in the real world now. The Quran actually alludes to this. The Quran many a place mentions, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَعِبٌ وَلَهُ. What is the life of this world but a sport, a play? وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. And what is this life except a means of deception? If I start to identify with this life, with what I'm going through, with whatever there is, and I think that I am this, and how, I can't, be separated from this. I may not say it, but when things come my way, when I'm faced with difficulty, I think, why is this happening to me? But again, you realize that you aren't this. You are much beyond this. And agreed, we feel what we feel, and we must be aware of those feelings. And indeed, feelings and emotions are something we need to be very, very much aware of. But that doesn't mean that you are that thing. The Quran many a time talks about the tribulations or the temporality of this world, and the example it gives of this world, very vividly describing it, mentions that the world is like when rain comes down. When rain comes down, the plants grow. And the Quran talks about this example, that the unbelievers get happy that the plants have grown, and we have lots of vegetation, and we have lots, and we can extend that example to perhaps our own lives. We have lots of wealth, we have a big house, we have a lot of health, etc., etc. And they feel as though they have absolute power over this. The Quran says, then as soon as that water is taken away, all the plants die. وَمَا, and the verse continues, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. And what is the life of this world but a means of deception, where we think we identify so closely to these things. We think that we are these things. The success that is out there, I brought it. I'm the one who did this. I'm the one who canvassed for this person. I'm the one who won this. I. When you realize how temporal this world is, you realize how temporal this body is, and we think about it, how many a friend we have had, a family member who has passed. How many we look around in the world, the destruction that's happening, the genocides that are happening around the world, how fleeting this world is, and makes us want to think that, why am I so attached to these things? Perhaps I all these things are a means, they are a tool. But as soon as I identify with this tool and take it to be the end, then I have disconnected what it's supposed to be there for. If there's a car and I start sitting in the car and enjoying the car without using the car, or if I was to extend this to even religion, religion is brought to as a means to something more, to make us better individuals. As soon as I take this to be an end in and of itself, I identify with this religion and say, I am from this madhab or from this religion and everybody else is wrong. I've taken it to be an end in and of itself. This religion, and indeed religion, is supposed to bring about humility and humbleness. It's supposed to bring about that inquisitive nature. It's supposed to bring about taqwa. It's supposed to make us want to see different perspectives and be better human beings and be humble. But if this religion blocks us, and we find in the life of the Ahlul Bayt where people would come to them and they would be open. They wouldn't say, I am the Imam, you don't know anything. They would listen. They would understand. They would speak. They would have a discussion. They wouldn't have this arrogance, the same arrogance that caused Shaitan to be kicked out of heaven. So we ask ourselves that what is it that we identify it? And this is a really difficult topic for me to look within myself. I really need to take some effort to look within myself and identify and look at what is it that I identify it. What is it that I'm so stuck with that I can't see anything else? What is it that prevents me from seeing that I am not this identity? Salawat. And we find Imam Hussein in his dua, Arafah, and indeed many a dua have mentioned this, how they talk to Allah and they identify. So Imam Hussein in dua Arafah mentions different places about the different body parts, thanking Allah. That, thank you for my hearing, my sense perception, my blood, my nerves, my brain, the bones in my ears. Every single thing he is counting. He is being grateful and appreciative, and he is cognizant. From another angle, he is aware of all these things. How many a time are we aware of what we do? How many a time are we aware of how we eat? Many a time we just eat quickly and go. But yet, we have in the hadith that, when you eat, you chew slowly. But it's not only about the chewing, but it's also being very present and aware of that. When we talk, when we walk, when we go into nature, when we are interacting with others, this awareness is very important. And the more we are aware, the more we realize that we aren't this body and we are separate from this body. That the soul will continue, the body will rot. And Imam Hussein also mentions in Dua Arafah, in a place where he says that you are the one who created me, ibtada'tani, that you created me, you started me. And then I went through the generations, in different generations, and I've come to where I am. And I was born in this particular generation. And of course, we can look at this from different angles. We can look at how we are passed in terms of genes have been passed, or in terms of trauma, how trauma has been passed. Where we know people who have undergone trauma because of genocide or because of moving from place to place. Many in the community have had to flee, for example, Uganda or Somalia or many other places, Iraq, Iran, wherever it may be. And those people have the trauma, and it seems that trauma can be passed on. So all these things, from different angles we can look at this. But we can also look at it at how temporal this world is. That everything is fleeting and we will one day pass. That the ultimate reality is, the ultimate power is, that there is that one reality that we must be cognizant of. And I wonder many a time how on the plains of Ashura, on the plains of Karbala, on the day of Ashura, how these individuals faced what they faced, how Imam Hussein was able to undergo all of those things, how Lady Zainab, even after that, much more difficult, after Karbala, to actually see everybody being slayed, and then going as slaves from different places, whilst they had that status, whilst they had that lineage. And sometimes life comes to us in certain ways, and God teaches us certain things. We may think that we have lots of strength, and God will come and teach us and take that strength away. And we realize that pride that I had, sometimes we don't even realize that we have that within ourselves. We haven't taken that time to be aware that I am maybe proud for whatever reason it may be. And sometimes Allah says in the Qur'an, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ, that we will most definitely test you with loss, a bit of loss, of this, of that, of wealth, of health, of whatever it may be. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, give glad tidings to those who are patient. And patience doesn't mean just holding it in your heart. Patience is something much more, where we are aware that we aren't this body, that whatever has affected us, and I am conscious of that. But sometimes when we identify with our labels, it becomes very detrimental to my own spiritual growth. The Quran alludes to this. It says, وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودِ لَيْسَتِ النَّصَارَى عَلَى شَيْءٍ, that the Jews at that time were saying, the Christians, they don't know anything, they're not on the truth. وَقَالَتِ النَّصَارَى لَيْسَتِ الْيَهُودَ عَلَى شَيْءٍ, and the Christians would say the same thing about the Jews, that they are nothing, they don't know what they're talking about. وَهُمْ يَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابِ, they're reading that same book. We bring it today's context. وَقَالَتِ الشِّيَعَ لَيْسَتِ السُّنَّةَ عَلَى شَيْءٍ وَقَالَتِ السُّنَّةَ لَيْسَتِ الشِّيَعَ عَلَى شَيْءٍ وَهُمْ يَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابِ. The Sunni will say the Shia is not on the right. The Shia will say the Sunni is not on the right. We are reading the exact book. We are praying in the same direction. These labels become blocks for us that prevent us from getting, again, to that ultimate reality. Religion is there to bring us to that, to make us realize that, to make us better individuals. But when we take religion as an end, it becomes problematic. In fact, even the Quran mentions this, that the Jews would say that Ibrahim is a Jew. Christians would say that Ibrahim is a Christian. And the Quran says, he is neither Christian nor is he Jew. Bal Hanifan Muslima, he is somebody who has submitted fully to God. He is beyond this label. And indeed, the prophets, the imams, all of them, why was their message so appealing? And we find similarity in the messages of different religions. Why were they so appealing? Because they went beyond labels. They were talking that universal human language of being good, of doing good, of practicing good. That it isn't just lip service, but it's actually becoming good. And this is what religion is all about. That being that better person, realizing that this world is temporal, realizing that I am not what all these labels that I have put up, that I am not a doctor, for example, or a sheikh, or of this person, of that lineage, or of this ethnicity. These are all labels. And Allah mentions in the Quran that we have created you in all these different boxes, these different labels, so that you may understand each other. But that doesn't give me the right to box certain individuals, put them in a box, and say that person is from that sort of thinking, or that person is from that. As I've mentioned in the start, that when Kalimullah Musa he's talking to Allah, he's told his title is Kalimullah, the one who speaks to Allah. But yet even he has to be humble and have that epistemic humility and go and learn from someone else. A very different way of looking at life. But he had to go and take lesson from Khidr and become and grow through that process. When I believe, or when I have a belief, and this isn't only in religion, we find this in politics also, in many other things, in football, right? If someone has a certain view, take for example, in current politics, You see what's happening with Biden, like he's making so many mistakes. Yet, the people behind him, pushing him, there was this clip that they're all supporting him and saying, continue, continue. There is this cognitive dissonance sometimes, where sometimes when something is clear and I have a belief, you come and tell me that your belief is wrong. I'm going to close up, go into my shell, and make justifications. We find this in extreme examples also, like doomsday cults. They say that the world is going to end on this particular day. The day comes and goes. And say, oh, no, there must be some wisdom behind it. There must be some hikmah behind it. The day is going to end on that day. And that day comes and goes, and another reason is made up. And they become even, psychologists have looked at it, they become even more strong in their belief. This is cognitive dissonance. I believe in something, you come and tell me that your belief is wrong. No, I say, maybe there's something behind it, I don't know. And I become even more entrenched. You find this in politics also. You find this in sports, and you find this in different elements. There's something for us to reflect upon. That why is it that I get so closed up when someone comes and tells me something? Whereas we look at the life of these individuals mentioned in the Qur'an, where they have had to humble themselves. Musa has had to say, okay, there's some things that I don't really know what's going on. And he asks for an explanation. We look at the life of Ibrahim. He is constantly curious. He's constantly asking. He is Khalilullah, the friend of God. But yet, he is going and he's asking Allah, how do you bring the dead alive? Show me. How? And he goes and looks for God. He says, he looks at the sun and the moon and the stars and everything else. He's on this journey. He's humble. He's looking. He's searching. He's asking. He's looking at everything. Nature. He's asking people. He's doing all these things. And only by being that open can we be receptive to that one reality. Can we break this ego which has all these labels? So this is something that we see in Karbala time and time again. We see this in the life of the Imams time and time again. How they have had to be humble and they have had to break this ego. So this is something for us to take a lesson from. Salawat. Indeed, one of the things that we may identify with is emotion. I am happy. I am sad. I am angry. I am fearful. Emotions are a very natural part of the human being. The Quran talks about different prophets experiencing different emotions. Different people in the Quran experiencing different emotions. فَأَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ خِيفَةً مُوسَى. Musa felt a fear when he's faced with these magicians. He actually felt fearful. And when Musa comes down to his people, غَضْبَانًا أَسِفًا, as the Quran says, he comes angrily. He is despondent. He's feeling that anger. He takes his brother by his beard. He throws the scrolls or whatever it may be on the side. He is actually experiencing anger. Maryam, mentioned in the Quran, فَأَجَاءَتْ بِجِذْءِ النَّخْلِ تُسَاقِطْ عَلَيْهَا رُطَبًا جَنِيًّا. So she goes to the palm tree and she's feeling the pangs of labor. يَا لَيْتَنِي مِتُّ قَبْلَ هَذَا وَكُنْتُ نَسْيًا مَنْسِيًا. If only I died, I passed away, and I was someone forgotten. These are very natural emotions that they are feeling, and these are emotions that me and you feel. I may feel like this. Am I feeling like this? Am I masking my feelings? Am I masking my emotions? Am I not wanting? She's very expressive in the Quran. The Quran is very expressive about Musa and others, that they are feeling something. The problem may come about when I identify with that I am that feeling, that I am that anger. And then I create an entire persona around that. Now, if I feel what Maryam was feeling, I need to sit with that. I need to reflect. I need to perhaps ask a professional for help in today's age, in today's language. And it's very natural to feel that. But as soon as I identify with that and I say that I am that, or even if I look at someone else and that person's angry at me for whatever reason and says something, as soon as I understand that they aren't that emotion, I'm looking at them differently now. I'm not looking at them as identifying as the angry person. I'm separating them from their emotion. And perhaps when I do that, I'm able to see that maybe they're going through something. And I shouldn't take what they're saying very personally. Again, I'm identifying with what their words are as a personal attack on my status, that that person said this to me in anger. And how dare they say that to me? Do they know who I am? Do they know what I've done for them? I've identified again with that label. As soon as I separate them from this emotion, I'm able to understand them more. I'm able to forgive them. We find this on the day of Ashura, where Hur comes to Imam Hussein. Right? He's done the worst of things, perhaps. He's prevented them from getting water, and he's put them in. He could have let them go to wherever they wanted to go, and there wouldn't have been all this bloodshed. But Imam Hussein looks at Hur and acknowledges that he was in that situation. He did what he did. I'm not going to take it personally. Imam Hussein is Imam Hussein. He's the grandson of the Prophet. He could have turned around and said, do you know what you did to me? I'm the grandson of the Prophet. But he didn't. He humbled himself. He forgave Hur. What a powerful thing to do. It requires a lot of strength. And I need to look within myself and find that strength. Take from Karbala, take from the lessons of Imam Hussein and the Ahlul Bayt, and find it within myself to know who I am, to realize that I am here temporarily, and by doing that I'm able to let things go so much more easier. And indeed, one of the things that I think about is spirituality and happiness. You know, when I went for Hajj the first time, I looked at the Kaaba and I had this lovely feeling, very nice feeling. For those who've been to Hajj or been to spiritual pilgrimages, that first moment that you go, you feel that very nice feeling. Now I felt that feeling. I felt really nice, spiritual. And then the next time I went, I'm saying, why is that feeling not coming? And I'm trying to replicate that feeling. But you can't. Again, you're identifying with that. You're not living in the present. You're not being as you are. You know, there's this experiment, a philosophical experiment that Ibn Sina came up with. And he writes that imagine a person suspended in space, and they have no sensory perception. They can't see, they can't hear, they can't feel, nothing. But they will still say that I am there, that I am present. Likewise in our daily lives. The reason why I mention that, it pushes forward that point that I am not that body. I just am. And when I experience certain things, religion, religious practices, pilgrimages, etc., when I try to force something without being there as I am, what happens is I'm now identifying with something that has happened in the past. Or when I hear of someone having an experience, I am trying to identify with that experience. When someone comes to me and tells me, when I went, I started crying, I felt this experience. Then when I go, I don't feel that experience. And I think, am I doing something wrong? I'm trying to live that person's experience. I'm not living my own experience. Each and every one of us is unique in their own experience. I don't need to live someone else's experience. I don't need to live in my past experience. I don't need to identify with that. I may have experienced it, and it's a valuable lesson for me. It's something that I learn from, but I just need to be. I just need to savor that moment. And many hadith talks about being aware Maybe not explicitly. There was a limitation of language, but perhaps it's pointing to that. You know, when you're certain times of the day, you sit whilst drinking. You be aware whilst drinking water. And so religion even can become a block to God when I'm trying to force myself into experiencing something. But religion is a means to something greater. As with any tool that we have, if we identify with that tool that is me, that's problematic. If I'm starting to drive and I say, this is me, that's problematic, right? And there's this, the early philosophers, Greek philosophers and others have posited this view that there is a man inside the brain, inside the body. You know how you have these cartoons where you have a man controlling the robot? So they've said that there is someone there. But of course, as psychology developed, they realized that that isn't the case. But it does beg the question that there is me, and then there is this body, and then there is my identity, and there is this world that is temporal, and there are all these different things that I need to be very, very aware of and very, very cognizant of. All these emotions that I'm going through. When Imam Ali says that you are an entire universe, it doesn't only mean from the angle of you have lots of capacity and lots of potential, which we all do have. But it also means that there's so much going on within myself that I'm not even aware of. I've never sat down and thought, hold on, why am I getting agitated with this? Or why does this make me sad? Or why does that? Being aware allows me to realize what's going on, to realize that I am separate to that. And I may feel those feelings. I may in the thick of it, and we should experience and express our feelings, but we shouldn't become identified with that feeling. We find that in our pursuit of happiness, we pursue different things, trying to fill a void within our hearts. We try to get lots of material things. We try to get lots of praise, some intangible things, because there's a void within myself where I think that I can get happiness if I please somebody, or I can get happiness if I get something, or I can get happiness because I can prove someone wrong. Again, my pursuit of happiness is contingent on other than I. And if I really seek happiness, then I need to look within myself. And the Qur'an mentions this, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, that felicitous is the person who purifies himself. That we all have this innate nature within us that knows right from wrong. We all have this within us to connect to that divine reality. We just need to look within, and we need to introspect and realize that we have all the tools at our hand. We just have to tap into it. If we were to go onto the plains of Karbala and we realize that on the day of Ashura, that all these individuals made immense sacrifice. They lost a lot. They lost their status, they lost their wealth, they lost their family, and they were still very cognizant, aware of their emotion and of why they were here and who they were. So much so that despite all the tribulation, the narrations mention that that night of Ashura, they were there singing the praises of God. They were reciting the Qur'an and mentioning the name of God, and their tents were as though the buzzing of bees. There was so much connection with God despite everything. They were happy with what God had decreed for them, despite having lost all the worldly wealth. On the day of Ashura, as Hussein is looking onto the battlefield, he sees that everybody has gone. There is Abbas who is there. And if we go back in history, we see in the Battle of Siffin, narrators mention that a masked, a veiled man comes onto the battlefield, roaring like a lion, and he kills so many people. And everyone cries out and says, "This is Ali, this is Ali," because no one fought so valiantly like Ali, except that man. And Ali rides up next to this veiled man and he removes the mask, and it is Abbas. So this brave warrior on the day of Ashura is there. And Hussein asks him, "Oh Abbas, why don't you go get some water? Why don't you go get some water for the children?" And Abbas recognizes it's a huge sacrifice to tell a warrior to put his sword away. But he does so. He swallows his ego and he goes and he does it for the greater good. He takes this water, he goes towards the enemy, towards the river, and they all scatter seeing Abbas come. He fills the water gourd, and then he turns back. As he turns back, the enemy comes from behind and cuts off his right hand. And he screams and he shouts and he says, "Even if you are to cut off my right hand, my heart would not waver." They come behind him and they cut off his left hand. And he shouts and he says that even if you are to cut off both my limbs, my belief in that one God, my love for my brother will remain. And finally, they throw a number of arrows onto him, piercing his eye, piercing the water gourd, and he falls down to the ground. He has lost everything, and he calls out to his brother. His brother Hussein comes onto the battlefield. He holds Abbas in his hands, and Abbas passes away. Hussein shouts out, "Al-an inkasara dhahri." Now my back is broken. Hussein's support has gone, but even at that point in time, Hussein composes himself and goes back. He realizes and recognizes the emotions that are going on within himself. He goes back to the camps with the flag, and they all realize that Abbas has passed away. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Let us pray to Allah to open up our hearts, to become like the Ahlul Bayt, to love like they loved, to love everyone unconditionally. We also pray to Allah to help all those around the world, in Palestine, in Congo, in Sudan, all these places where genocides are happening. We pray to Allah to help them and all people around the world of all denominations, of all religions, of all colors. We ask Allah to help them ease their situation with a Surah Fatiha, but before that, Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you very much, Shaykh Ali Reza, for that very thought-provoking talk. We'll now move on to the next part of the program, which will be spoken word recited by Muhammad Abbas Jafar. Please, can we welcome him with a loud salawat?
Tonight's poem is in honor of Abu al-Fadl Abbas, the backbone of Hussein, and the last hope of Ruqayya. And we'll begin with a Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Abu al-Fadl's mother was chosen for the courage in her veins. She sacrificed her name, for it echoed loud with pain, for to hear the name of Fatima would cause Ali to shake. Would remind him of a rib and how it was made to break. Would remind him of a door, its frame lit up with flames. Would remind him of blood that left stains upon a nail. No, the name Fatima would cut Ali time and time again. So Abbas's mother became Bani to protect Ali. Divided her love into portions, giving plenty to her 4 sons and to Zahra's orphans. No, let me correct myself, for Bani didn't birth children, but cubs. Shower them with kisses and hugs, empower them with the richness of love for Hussein. a love she couldn't hide, and together these cubs formed her brightly shining pride. And Abbas loved Hussein too, followed in his steps like the sun follows the moon, but here the moon of the Hashemites follows the son of Zahra. The moon of the Hashemites follows the son of Zahra over the horizon. And soon those cubs turned lions, formed a valiant alliance that would strike fear into any titan or giant. At Siffin, Abbas fought in such a way that made his father proud. Left so many bodies in his wake that you could hardly count, then announced to the enemy so there could not even be a tiny part of doubt, I am Abbas, the son of Ali, and it is the role of the sons of Ali to protect the sons of Muhammad. I am the hands, they are the eyes, and it is the role of the hands to protect the eyes. But where were those hands on the day of Ashura? And look how Abu al-Fadl protected Husnain. He stood tall, blocking the arrows that were dropping onto Hassan's coffin. Abbas stood taller at Hajj on the Kaaba after Hussein refused to give Yazid bay'ah, saying, all praise is to Allah who honored this house with the birth of Hussein's father. And then, true to his name, he frowned. Abbas means the lion who glares or frowns. True to his name, he frowned down at the crowds and said aloud, if you dare attack my brother, I will come at you like an angry eagle, and you evil people are nothing but sparrows. This Abbas wasn't afraid of their swords or arrows or even death, for we Bani Hashim played with death as children. So here we have it. From their youth in Siffin, Abbas and Hussein, Hussein and Abbas, two lions who walk the same path until that path led them to the land of Karbala. And the arrows came, and the blood was spilt, and the bodies fell, and the children cried, and then came Abbas's time. Abbas enters the field of battle, and the enemy scatter like a field of cattle, for there's a lion in their midst. With a flag in one hand and a mushk tied around his wrist, the enemy are shaking, but they try and pretend to be brave, but really they're just impious men, and this is no longer a battlefield, but a lion's den. And Abu al-Fadl's prey stand frozen. And upon Abbas their eyes now focus as he walks between them as if they're the Red Sea and he is Moses. He looks down at the water and wonders, should I take some or not? Some say he remembered the thirst of Hussein, but in truth, he never forgot. He marches forwards into the water, he clings. But then, from behind a tree, Zayd bin Warqa al-Lain swings, hacks Abbas's right hand. But here's the thing, you can't stop Abu al-Fadl, who proudly sings, I swear if you cut my right hand, I will forever protect this religion, and protect an imam who is truthful and certain, the Holy Prophet's great-grandson. And then from behind another trunk, Hakam bin Tufail al-La'in springs, hacking the left arm of our skilled king, who soon be granted frilled wings. And even though they tried to kill him, look how his dismembered arm to the flag still clings. And listen how he still sings, O Nafs, do not be scared of the kuffar. Rather, get ready for the mercy of the Jabbar, where you'll be close to the chosen ones of Allah. But as he heads back to the tents, 100 arrows they fling, one glides through the sky and into the eye of Abbas it sinks. Zahra watches as the lion grips the mushk between his teeth. No arms, tries to take the arrow out with his knees, and he keeps going, for he hears Ruqayya weep. But another arrow is shot, and into the mushk it sleeps. Onto the burning ground the water begins to seep, and finally Abbas Abbas falls down in a heap, calling out for his master. And Hussein mounts his horse and rides faster into the battlefield, where he's met with disaster. Abul Fadl, with a voice that cracked, spoke, Mawla, please don't take me back home, because just now Ruqayya still has hope. So Hussein tries to place Abbas's head on his lap. No, Ya Mawla, who'll hold your head when you lay in that ditch so shallow. So he wipes Abbas's blood on his black robe, goes to the tent and knocks out the tagpole, winds up the flagpole, for today is the day that Hussein's back broke. So that's the story of Hussein and Abbas. They grew up side by side, and one by one they fell. Blood drenched their manes, and the spears beneath as well. And a city far away, in a home that's now a shell, a lioness falls to the floor and loudly begins to yell, Wa Husayna, Wa Abbasa, Wa Husayna, Wa Abbasa, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Salawat. अब्बास तेरे खून से रंगी है अलम तेरा, अब्बास तेरे खून से रंगी है अलम तेरा। दिल सीने में जब तक है भूलेगा न गम तेरा, अब्बास तेरे खून से रंगी है अलम तेरा। टूटी जो कमर शेख की बस दो ही तो सदमे थे, टूटी जो कमर शेख की बस दो ही तो सदमे थे। एक फिक्र थी ज़ैनब की और दूसरा गम तेरा। दिल सीने में जब तक है भूलेगा न गम तेरा, अब्बास तेरे खून से रंगी है अलम तेरा। ऐ शेर जरी जिस दम दरिया पे तू आया था, ऐ शेर जरी जिस दम दरिया पे तू आया था मश्के सकीना में या सीने में दम तेरा। दिल सीने में जब तक है भूलेगा न गम तेरा, अब्बास तेरे खून से रंगी है अलम तेरा। बहते हुए पानी में तस्वीर सकीना थी, बहते हुए पानी में तस्वीर सकीना थी, दम दे दिया दरिया पे उठाना कदम तेरा, दिल सीने में जब तक है भूलेगा न गम तेरा, अब्बास तेरे खून से रंगी है अलम तेरा, मश्क और अलम सरवर दरिया से उठा लाए, मश्क और अलम सरवर दरिया से उठा लाए, ज़ैनब से उठा होगा किस तरह से गम तेरा, दिल सीने में जब तक है भूलेगा न गम तेरा, अब्बास तेरे खून से रंगी है अलम तेरा, ज़ैनब की दुआ बनकर एक वक्त वो आएगा, ज़ैनब की दुआ बनकर एक वक्त वो आएगा, हर घर पे सजा होगा अब्बास अलम तेरा, दिल सीने में जब तक है भूलेगा न गम तेरा, अब्बास तेरे खून से रंगी है अलम तेरा, बाजार में जिंदा में दरबार में हर लम्हा, बाजार में जिंदा में दरबार में हर लम्हा, ज़ैनब की तो सांसों पे था नाम रकम तेरा, दिल सीने में जब तक है भूलेगा न गम तेरा, अब्बास तेरे खून से रंगी है अलम तेरा। सलवात। Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
Oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you. Oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you. Hey there, your dear father asked you to protect him. Hey there, your dear father asked you to protect him. He stands all alone, Abbas, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you. Furat kept calling you, fulfill cries of Ruqayyah. Furat kept calling you, fulfill cries of Ruqayyah. Who cried more when the flag fell, anguished, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you. Master, loving title you used for your brother. Master, loving title you used for your brother. He just called out Halmin, forlorn, he needs you, Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you. Your eyes watching closely over us, our protector, our eyes watching closely over us, our protector, who protects Hussein now alone, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you. Your hands used to help him climb on to Zujana. Your hands used to help him climb on to Zujana. He rides out this last time, helpless, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you. To Sham will be taken, tied with chains, so helpless. To Sham will be taken, tied with chains, so helpless. Our princess paraded, uncle, I need you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you, oh Abbas, protector, he needs you, he needs you.
Ya Hussein, 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 Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Brothers and sisters, just a few quick announcements before Salah. First off, tomorrow evening our program will begin at 6:30 p.m. directly after the children's program. And just another quick reminder, tonight after Salah we will have a Q&A session with Shaykh Ali Reza Khaki. The Muharram program costs about £10,000 to run this year, so please do donate where possible. You can donate online on sikkim.org.uk/give, or at the pay machines in either the entrances on the gents and the ladies' sides, or speak to a member of the EC. Husseini Madrasa registration for the 24-25 year is also open. You can visit sikkim.org.uk/madrasa2425 to sign up now. Thank you. Please make preparations for Salah.
Brothers and sisters, please move as far to the left as possible to allow as many people to get in to pray as possible.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن عليًا ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وسلم.